Okay. So if you look at any sort of copywriting techniques or marketing writing techniques, you're going to see that a lot of that starts with jumping straight into how to write a framework, or how to write a headline, or how to write a particular style of copy. I start with always the identity and personality of your audience. So before you put pen to pad or write any piece of copy, the first thing you need to do is identify who it is you're talking to. And not just typical persona base. A typical persona base would be demographics or their age or their location, things like that. No, that's not the persona I'm talking about. I'm talking about your audience's identity. How do they see themselves? And the personality. So, how do they think, act, behave? Combining those two things and knowing that about your audience is key to the resonance of your copy. So, we want to get into first identity. So we all have identities, right? Their identities are how we see ourselves. And we have multiple identities throughout our entire day, throughout our entire life. We evolve through identities. So identities are mother, wife, daughter, right? It can be student, graduate, member of sorority, fraternity, entrepreneur, CEO, right? The religious affiliation, hobbies. I'm a runner, I'm a gamer. Those are identities. And if you pay attention to any good marketing, so good ad copy or good commercials, they always speak to identity. They don't necessarily say it outright, but it's going to be shown through the actor or actresses, through the visuals, through the style of communication, is going to be speaking to people's identity, because that's what resonates with people. So when you think about your audience, think about the identity of the person that you're talking to. Secondarily, we want to combine that with personality type. So personality types are like characteristics or traits about how our audience thinks, feels, or acts. So these could be things like optimistic or independent or stubborn or talkative or generous. Those are things, once we combine those things with identity, it becomes powerful resonance for our audience. So things like busy business owners or energetic mothers, those sorts of things are like, oh, someone says, yep, that's me. You're talking to me. Okay. So we want to be able to identify our audience by their identity, and also combine that with a personality type, especially when we are writing. Before I move forward, I did forget to say, if you have questions, yes, please put them in the chat. What I'm going to do is during the exercise, I'll go through the chat and then I'll answer any of the questions that you guys have. All right, so identity. So going through identity, we have 5 different identity types. When you're thinking about your audience, think about if any of these resonate with your audience. So typically we have roles. For a lot of businesses, it's going to be their professional roles. So lawyer, doctor, teacher, nurse, construction worker, architect, things like that. Those are good. They're a good place to start. They're very resonant. But if we can also think beyond those roles, so think about like their hobbies or interests. So pet lovers or marathon runners or gamers. So hobbies and interests. We have affiliations, so group affiliations, things based on religious, based on politic affiliations, based on group, like again, like sorority or fraternity would fall into this too as well. We have things like life's changes, so or their stage in life too as well. So that can be things like a millennial or Gen X would fall into this. Recent graduate, recent retiree. Life stages is like a new mom or new homeowner. And then we have cultural background. So cultural background is things like race, ethnicity, nationality. All of those things form a person. And we all have those throughout our entire life, right? So it's same thing for your audience. So think about for your audience, based on these categories, which ones would align best with who you were trying to sell to. And again, if we can combine those with the personality type of that audience, then we even so more resonate. So think about them socially. So again, this is personality type is how they think, feel, act. So are they friendly, outgoing, or are they more reserved, reflective, and quiet? Think about them, their mental approach. So are they more analytical? Are they more creative? Or are they more process oriented? Think about them in terms of their actual behavior. So are they more siloed worker, independent? Are they more adventurous, group thinking? Think about them also in their emotional state. So is their emotional state more optimistic, empathetic, pessimistic, stubborn? So when we combine the identity of our audience with their personality type, then we can speak to them in our copy much more effectively. So our first exercise. So make sure that you have a pen and paper handy or open up a Word doc. The first exercise is where we're going to be going through our audience's identity and their personality. And this shouldn't take very long. I just want you to take a minute and again, think through their identity type. So whether it be the role, their hobbies, their affiliation, life stages, or cultural background, and pick one. If you have two, that's awesome, but at least pick one for your audience. And then think about the personality type. So social, mental, behavior, or emotional, and pick two personality types for your audience. So, or just basic characteristics. So again, things like ambitious or energetic or intelligent or multitasking or overly stressed. Pick two for your audience. So just take 1 minute and go through that exercise.